Well, this is going to sort of be a lightning round. I got some questions for you.
Let's go.
All right, in the bill it says each employer that does not employ more than 50 employees at any time during the applicable payment period may claim a credit against payments due, credits multiplied by the number of hours worked, yada yada, during the reporting period. First of all, what is an applicable payment period?
I believe those are 90-day reporting periods for tax purposes, Representative.
No, applicable payment period, not reporting period, applicable payment period.
The payment period, I believe, is referring to the period in which they... Let me make sure I get this right for you, Representative. I want to make sure I answer your questions with the most accuracy.
Then I'll ask you another question while you're waiting on that. Oh. I want him to. Question?
I'll get back to you on that, Representative. I'll take question number 2.
Okay. If an employer exceeds 50 employees for even one day during the applicable payment period, does that mean the employer then becomes ineligible for the credit for that entire reporting period, or just the applicable payment period?
What we're talking about is these 90-day reporting periods, right? So if you go above 50 for any one of those 90-day periods, you won't be eligible for the credit for that 90-day period. So,
fair enough.
Yeah.
Do employees who take leave under VESA or FMLA stay on the rolls as employees for purposes of determining the number of employees counted in the bill?
I believe they do, yes.
Okay. If an employer hires temporary workers to replace those on leave, are they counted toward the 50 in the employer threshold?
If they're considered employees, then yes.
Then if an employer has 49 employees and 2 of them take leave within the applicable payment period and are replaced with temporary employees, then the employer is ineligible for the credit because now he's got 51?
During that period, the answer is yes.
Okay. All right. The bill also provides that the credit or credits may be taken against payments due for reporting periods. This bill provides for only one credit. When you say credit or credits, does that mean that the credit anticipated in this bill is aggregated in some way with other credits available to the employer during any particular reporting period?
No, I believe it means you're asking why it says a credit or credits rather than just a credit? Is that what you're asking?
That's
I believe
correct.
It's just referring to consecutive credits pertaining to this section of the Act.
Say that again?
I believe that the reason why it's pluralized there, although I will indulge you in this line of questioning, Representative. I believe the reason it's pluralized in that instance is because it's referring to the possibility of claiming multiple consecutive credits for consecutive reporting periods under this single section, and not to other credits in other sections of the law.
All right. Now, you're limited to 25% of your tax liability for any reporting period for this credit. What are the hierarchies of credits? Is this credit offset 25% of the total liability, or does it offset 25% of the liability that's reduced by DCEO credits and IDOR credits?
I believe it's for the net liability, Representative.
Okay, here's an example. An employee who is 18 years old or older in 2019, this employee is paid $10 an hour. If this employee worked 30 hours a week, he'd be paid $300 a week or $15,600 annually. The employer could claim a per-hour credit for the year of 75 cents an hour worked, or $1,170. But let's further assume he's the only employee and has Illinois income tax withheld at a 5% rate. That means he'd only have $195 withheld from his pay per quarter. Since the employer is limited to the credit of no greater than 25% of what's withheld from the employee's pay, the employer would get a maximum credit of $48.75 or 1.25% of that employee's wages. That's in the bill. 25% of the net liability, that's it. Before I go on, though, I'd like to request verification of this vote, please. To the bill. Anybody who's going back to your district and say, I'm voting for this bill because you're being given a tax credit, you better be careful about what you go back with, because this credit is nothing more than a fig leaf that is insufficient to cover even the most inadequate of genitalia. This credit is meant for one of two things. There's either going to be employers are going to throw up their hands and completely give up on this thing.
Please make your final remarks, Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. They're either going to give up because it's too darn complicated to keep track of, or there are going to be a mountain of Department of Revenue auditors ready to come down them like a duck on a June bug. This credit is not meant to do anything other than to provide a smokescreen to anyone thinking that they can come home with a minimum wage bill and then walk into a local restaurant or grocery store and stare that owner in the face and say, "I did something for you." I urge strongly a no vote on this bill.